Jake Morrison stood in the center of the giant council chamber. The room was so big that his voice would echo if he spoke too loud. Around him sat the representatives of 12 different alien species. Each one looked different from the others. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few looked like they were made of crystal. Jake was tired. For 3 long years, he had been the voice of humanity in this place. For 3 years, he had watched these aliens make life harder and harder for his people. First, they said humans could not build new colonies without permission. Then they said human ships were too dangerous and needed special permits. Last month, they decided that human businesses had to pay extra taxes that no other species had to pay. Today was different. Today, Jake held a small piece of paper in his hand that would change everything. The Zephyrian Chancellor, Veltar, sat on the highest platform. His blue skin glowed softly in the chamber's lights. He had 6 arms and used all of them when he talked. Veltar had always looked down on humans. He thought they were young and stupid compared to his people who had been traveling space for thousands of years. Ambassador Morrison, Veltar said, his voice smooth but cold. "We hope you have come to accept our new terms. Your species must learn to follow the rules like everyone else." Jake looked up at him. The new terms were impossible. The Galactic Council wanted all human military ships destroyed. They wanted human colonies to be watched over by alien governors. They wanted humans to ask permission before they could even leave their own solar system. "I have an answer," Jake said quietly. The chamber became silent. Even the Krith representatives, who usually made clicking sounds with their mandibles, stopped their noise. The floating jellies from the aquatic collective stopped their gentle movements in their water tanks. Jake unfolded the paper and began to read. "The United Earth Federation formally withdraws from the Galactic Council. This decision is final and will take effect immediately. All human personnel, colonies, and assets will be removed from council space within 6 standard months." The silence that followed was so complete that Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting in dozens of different languages. Some were standing up from their seats. Others were flashing colors or making loud sounds that Jake had never heard before. Veltar raised all 6 of his arms for silence. "This is foolish," he said. "Humans cannot survive without the council. You need our trade routes. You need our protection. You need our wisdom." Jake folded the paper and put it back in his pocket. "We have survived for thousands of years before. We met you. We will survive after we leave." "But where will you go?" asked Dekla, the representative of the Silicon Collective. His rocky body scraped against his chair as he leaned forward. "There is nowhere in the galaxy that is not claimed by one of us. We will find our own way," Jake said simply. The chamber erupted in noise again. Some aliens were laughing. They thought this was the funniest thing they had ever heard. Others looked worried. A few species had been quietly trading with humans and making good profits from it. "Commander?" Lisa Barrett waited outside the chamber doors. She had been expecting this moment for weeks. Lisa was in charge of Operation Exodus, the largest evacuation in human history. She had spent months planning how to move 47 human colonies, hundreds of research stations, and millions of people out of council space. When Jake walked out of the chamber, Lisa could see the relief on his face. "How did they take it?" she asked. "About as well as we expected," Jake said. "They think we're making a huge mistake." "Maybe we are," Lisa said, "but staying here would have been a bigger one." The news spread through human space faster than light. Travel on every human world and every human station. People gathered around communication screens to hear the announcement. Some were scared. Some were excited. Most were just tired of being treated like children by aliens who thought they knew better. On the mining world of Kepler 442b, Dr. Rachel Stone was in the middle of checking the soil enhancement systems when the announcement came through. She had spent 5 years developing these systems with the local Krith engineers. The systems could grow enough food to feed 3 billion beings across multiple worlds. Rachel turned to her Krith partner, Scrix. "I guess this means I'll be leaving soon," she said. Scrix's mandibles clicked nervously. "But who will maintain the systems? Who will update the crop rotation schedules? The harvest season starts in 2 months." Rachel looked at the complex control panels around them. She had built these systems to be simple to use, but they still needed someone who understood how they worked. "You'll figure it out," she said, though she wasn't sure if that was true. In the Hegemony Mining Consortium's headquarters, the news caused panic. 30% of their top engineers were human. The humans had developed new ways to extract minerals from asteroid belts that were twice as efficient as the old methods. They had created safety systems that had reduced mining accidents by 90%. The consortium's board met in emergency session. "We need to offer them whatever they want to stay," said board member Zeketh, a tall alien with purple fur. "It's too late for that," replied Chairman Vexstar. "The council has already made their decision. If we try to keep the humans, we'll be thrown out too." Meanwhile, Dr. Alex Turner was working in his laboratory on the agricultural station orbiting Kepler 442b. He had developed new plant varieties that could grow in different alien environments. These plants were now growing on dozens of worlds, feeding billions of beings. Alex's assistant, a young aquatic collective member named Blubberin, floated nervously in his water suit. "Dr. Turner, what will happen to the crop projects? The new growing season starts soon." Alex looked at his notes. "Years of research were stored in these files. I'll leave copies of everything," he said. "But understanding the data and using it correctly are two different things." The evacuation began immediately. Human families started packing their belongings. Human businesses began shutting down their operations. Human scientists copied their research and prepared to destroy anything too dangerous to leave behind. Captain Peter Walsh commanded the evacuation fleet. His ships moved from world to world, picking up humans and their most important possessions. Each ship that left took with it knowledge, skills, and relationships that had taken years to build. The aliens watched the evacuation with mixed feelings. Some were glad to see the humans go. They had always thought humans were too loud, too curious, and too willing to change things. Others began to worry about what would happen when the humans were gone. As the last human transport ship prepared to leave Council space, Captain Walsh sent a final message to the Galactic Council. The message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every being in Council space could hear it. "We came to you in peace, hoping to learn and to share what we knew. We offered friendship and received suspicion. We offered cooperation and received control. We offered partnership and received demands for submission. We leave you now, not in anger, but in disappointment. We hope that someday you will understand that strength comes not from controlling others, but from working together as equals. May you find what you seek in our absence." The message ended, and the last human ship jumped to hyperspace. The Galactic Council chamber was quiet for the first time in years. Veltar sat alone on his platform, looking at the empty space where Jake Morrison used to stand. Something felt different, though he couldn't quite say what it was. Outside, the galaxy continued to turn. Trade routes operated normally. Ships traveled between worlds. The great machines of galactic civilization kept working. For now, but in the deep space monitoring stations, a few alien technicians noticed something strange. The efficiency reports were showing small decreases in performance. The communication networks were having minor glitches. The automated systems were running just a little bit slower than usual. It was nothing serious, nothing that couldn't be fixed. At least, that's what they told themselves. 6 months had passed since the last human ship left Council space. At first, everything seemed normal. The aliens went about their daily lives, trading goods, running their governments, and managing their worlds. Many of them felt relieved that the humans were gone. The galaxy seemed quieter and more peaceful. But then small problems started to appear. On the mining asteroid, Series 7, Scrix clicked his mandibles in frustration. The deep core mining equipment had stopped working properly 3 days ago. The massive drill that could cut through solid rock like butter was now moving slower than a walking pace. The automated systems that sorted different minerals were mixing everything together. Scrix stared at the control panel. Dr. Rachel Stone had made it look so easy when she was here. She would press a few buttons, check some numbers, and everything would work perfectly. Now Scrix pressed the same buttons, but nothing happened the way it should. "Maintenance report." Scrix called to his assistant, a young Krith named Vex. "Kill the Primary drill is operating at 30% efficiency, Vexkill reported. The secondary sorting system is offline. The safety protocols are triggering false alarms every hour. Scrix felt his stomach drop. This mining operation fed raw materials to 15 different worlds. If production kept falling, billions of beings would be affected. Did Dr. Stone leave? Any instruction manuals? Yes, but they are very complicated. She wrote them for humans to understand. We do not think the same way humans do. Scrix looked at the thick manual Rachel had left behind. The pages were filled with diagrams, equations, and explanations that seemed simple when Rachel explained them. Now they looked like ancient mysteries. On the other side of the galaxy, the Stellar Banking Union was having its own problems. The main computer systems that handled trillions of credits every day were acting strangely. Numbers that should have added up correctly were showing errors. Transactions that should have taken seconds were taking hours, Manager Peltix, a tall alien with silver skin, called an emergency meeting. What is the status of the financial networks? He asked his team. The trading algorithms are failing, reported Chief Analyst Quindor. The fraud detection systems are blocking legitimate transactions. The currency exchange rates are fluctuating wildly. Peltix felt a cold fear in his chest. The human programmer Nicole Wright had designed most of these systems. She had built them to be smart and efficient, but they were also incredibly complex. Without her regular updates and fixes, they were starting to break down. Can we fix them ourselves? Peltix asked. Quindor looked at his notes. We are trying, but the code is very advanced. It uses programming techniques that we do not fully understand. It might take years to learn how to maintain these systems properly. Meanwhile, on the planet Kepler-4, for to be, a much more serious crisis was developing. The agricultural systems that fed the planet's 3 billion inhabitants were failing. The crop yields were dropping every week. Plants that should have been healthy and strong were weak and sickly. Governor Thaxon walked through the dying fields with his agricultural advisor, Zephyk. The crops that had grown tall and green just a few months ago were now yellow and stunted. What is causing this? Thaxon asked. The soil enhancement systems are not working correctly, Zephyk explained. Dr. Alex Turner designed them to release nutrients at exactly the right times. But something is wrong with the timing. The plants are getting too much of some nutrients and not enough of others. Thaxon knelt down and touched the sick soil. Can we fix it? We are trying, but Dr. Turner's systems are very advanced. He understood how different plants need different nutrients at different times. He knew how the soil chemistry changes with weather and seasons. We have his notes, but understanding them is different from being able to use them. The governor stood up and looked across the vast fields. If the crops continued to fail, his people would starve. How long before we have a food crisis? 2 months, maybe 3, Zephyk said quietly in the capital city of the Galactic Council. Communication problems were getting worse every day. The translation systems that allowed different species to understand each other were breaking down. Messages that should have been clear were coming out garbled and confusing. Chancellor Veltar tried to contact the Aquatic Collective about a trade agreement. The message he sent was, we propose a mutual exchange of rare minerals for advanced water filtration technology. The message the Aquatic Collective received was, we demand immediate surrender of your mineral resources in exchange for dirty water. The collective was so offended that they cut off all communications with the Zephyrians. Similar misunderstandings were happening throughout the galaxy. Allies were becoming enemies because they could not understand each other properly, called his chief technician Mordok. Why are the translation systems failing? The human linguistics specialist, Dr. Kevin Harris, designed the core translation algorithms, Mordok explained. These systems learn and adapt to new languages and dialects, but they need constant updates and adjustments. Without Dr. Harris maintaining them, they are starting to make mistakes. Can we hire someone else to fix them? We have tried, but Dr. Harris had a unique understanding of how different species think and communicate. His replacement would need years of study to reach the same level of expertise. The medical systems were also starting to fail. Dr. Emma Clark had developed treatments for diseases that affected multiple species. Her research had saved millions of lives across the galaxy, but her automated treatment systems were beginning to malfunction. On the hospital ship Mercy's Light, Dr. Yexton faced his worst nightmare. A plague was spreading through the Outer Rim colonies. The disease affected both Krith and Zeph populations, and it was spreading fast. What treatments do we have available? Dr. Yexton asked his medical team. Dr. Clark left us the formulas for the medicine, replied Nurse Kixera, but the automated production systems are not working correctly. The medicines are coming out too weak to be effective. Dr. Yexton studied the production data. Dr. Clark's systems were designed to automatically adjust the medicine based on the patient's species, age, and health condition. But without her oversight, the systems were making dangerous mistakes. How many people will die if we cannot fix this? He asked. Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions, Kixera said quietly. The Galactic Defense Force was having its own problems. Without human strategic advisors, their response times were getting slower and slower. Pirate attacks that should have been stopped quickly were lasting for days. Territorial disputes that should have been resolved peacefully were turning into small wars. Admiral Zector stood in the command center, watching helplessly as another merchant convoy was attacked by pirates. How long until our fleet arrives? He asked. 4 hours, replied his tactical officer, Commander Hexwin. 4 hours. It used to take us 30 minutes to respond to attacks in this sector. The human strategic computers calculated the most efficient patrol routes, Hexwin explained. Without their systems, we have to rely on our old methods. We simply cannot cover as much space as effectively. Zector watched the pirate ships escape with their stolen cargo. How many merchant vessels have we lost this month? 40, sir. That is 3 times more than last month. In the deep space monitoring stations, alien technicians were beginning to panic. The automated systems that monitored asteroid movements, solar flares, and other space hazards were failing. Early warning systems that protected entire planets were going offline. Chief, Monitor Vaxil looked at his screens in dismay. The asteroid tracking system is showing errors. The solar flare prediction model is giving us false warnings. The deep space communication relays are losing signal strength. His assistant Pexmore checked the maintenance logs. These systems were designed by human engineers. They built them to be self-maintaining, but they still need regular checkups and updates. Without the humans, we are just waiting for them to break down completely. What happens if the asteroid tracking system fails completely? Vexel asked. A large asteroid could hit a populated world, and we would not see it coming until it was too late. Across the galaxy, similar problems were multiplying. Power grids were becoming unstable. Transportation systems were slowing down. Manufacturing plants were producing defective goods. The great machines of galactic civilization were grinding to a halt without human maintenance and innovation. On his private estate, Chancellor Veltar sat alone in his study. Reports of failures and problems were piling up on his desk. Trade was down 40%. Crime was up 60%. Several worlds were facing food shortages. The carefully balanced economy of the galaxy was falling apart for the first time in his long life. Veltar began to wonder if the council had made a terrible mistake. But it was too late to change anything now. The humans were gone, and they had made it very clear that they were not coming back. Outside his window, the lights of the capital city flickered as another power grid failure rolled through the district. In the distance, he could see smoke rising from a factory that had caught fire because its safety systems had malfunctioned. The silence left by humanity's departure was becoming louder every day. 1 year had passed since the humans left. What started as small problems had grown into major disasters. The galaxy that once ran smoothly was now falling apart piece by piece. The Stellar Banking Union building was in chaos. Emergency alarms were ringing constantly. On the main floor, hundreds of aliens rushed back and forth, shouting numbers and waving data tablets. The financial networks that controlled the galaxy's economy were crashing. Manager Peltic stood in the center of it all, his silver skin turning pale with stress. In just 1 week, the banking systems had lost more money than some planets made in a year. The numbers were so big that they did not seem real. Report, Peltix called to his assistant. Rickstow, the fraud detection systems have completely failed, Rickstow said, his voice shaking. Criminals are stealing millions of credits every hour. The automatic trading programs are buying and selling randomly. 3 major currencies have crashed completely. Peltix looked at the giant display screen showing the galaxy's economic health. Everything was red, meaning everything was failing. How much have we lost total? 4 trillion credits and counting, Rickster whispered. Peltix felt sick. Nicole Wright had built systems that could think and learn like living beings. They could spot crimes before they happened and make trades that always made money, but they were too complex for anyone else to understand without her guidance. They had become dangerous monsters eating the galaxy's wealth on the other side of the galaxy. The medical crisis was getting worse every day. Dr. Yexton walked through the hospital corridors of New Salvation Station. Every room was full of sick patients. The hallways were lined with more beds because there was no space left. "Doctor, we need you in emergency room 7, called Nurse Kixara. Dr. Yexton hurried to the emergency room. Inside, a group of Zephyrian children lay on beds. Their blue skin turned almost white with sickness. The plague that had started in the outer rim was now spreading to the core worlds. "What is their condition?" Dr. Yexton asked. "Critical. We tried to use Dr. Emma Clark's treatment formulas, but the medicine production systems are still broken. The drugs we made are too weak to help them." Dr. Yexton looked at the dying children and felt helpless. Dr. Clark had spent years studying how diseases affected different species. She had created treatments that worked for everyone, but her knowledge had left with her. "How many people have died from this plague so far?" he asked quietly. 2 million across 15 worlds, Kixara said, and the number grows every day. The Galactic Defense Force was facing its own nightmare. In the command center of the flagship Eternal Glory, Admiral Ziegler watched a tactical display with growing horror. Red dots representing pirate attacks covered the screen like a rash. Status report. Admiral Ziegler ordered. Commander Hexwin looked exhausted. 43 pirate attacks in the last day. We managed to respond to only 12 of them. The rest of the attacks succeeded. What about our patrol schedules? Without the human strategic computers, we cannot predict where attacks will happen. We are always arriving too late. Admiral Zektor studied the map the human advisors had created. Patrol patterns that seemed to be everywhere at once. Ships appeared where they were needed before anyone knew they were needed. Now the Defense Force was stumbling around blind. "How many civilians have died in these attacks?" the Admiral asked. "Over 50,000 in the past month, Commander," Hexwin said quietly. On the planet Kepler 44 to be, Governor Thaxon stood in what used to be fertile farmland. The ground was dry and cracked. Dead plants covered the fields like brown snow. The agricultural systems that had fed 3 billion people were completely destroyed. "How bad is the food situation?" he asked his advisor. "Zephyr, we have enough. Stored food for maybe 2 more weeks," Zephyr said. "After that, people will start starving." Governor Thaxon felt the weight of 3 billion lives on his shoulders. Dr. Alex Turner had created farming systems that could grow food anywhere, in any conditions. His plants could survive droughts, floods, and harsh weather. But when the systems failed, everything died at once. "Are there any other worlds that can send us food?" "We have asked everyone, but most worlds are having their own food problems now. The agricultural systems are failing everywhere." In the Deep Space Monitoring Center, Chief Monitor Voxel stared at his blank screens. The systems that watched for dangerous asteroids and solar flares had been offline for 3 days. The galaxy was flying blind through space. "Any progress on repairs?" he asked. His team. Engineer Pexmore shook his head. "The human design systems are too advanced. We have been trying to understand them for months, but they use technologies we have never seen before. What happens if a large asteroid is heading for a populated world? We will not know until someone sees it with their own eyes. By then, it will be too late to evacuate." Vaxel thought about the billions of people living on planets throughout the galaxy. Any one of them could be destroyed by an asteroid, and no one would see it coming. The communication networks were also completely broken. Chancellor Veltar sat in his office trying to coordinate with other council members, but every message he sent came out wrong on the other end. His message: "We need emergency aid for the outer colonies." What they received: "We demand tribute from the outer colonies." The Aquatic Collective had stopped talking to everyone after receiving threats they thought came from the Zephyrians. The Silicon Collective had declared war on the Krith because of a misunderstood trade agreement. 3 different species had formed military alliances against enemies that did not actually exist. "Can we fix the translation systems?" Veltar asked his technician, Mordok. "We have been trying for months." But Dr. Kevin Harris understood how different minds work in ways we cannot duplicate. His systems were almost like magic. The power grids were the next systems to fail completely. On the industrial world of Titan V, the main fusion reactor shut down without warning. The city of 10 million people was plunged into darkness. Chief Engineer Kovacs ran through the power plant, checking readings and flipping switches. Nothing worked. The reactor that had run perfectly for 20 years was now silent and cold. "What caused the shutdown?" he asked his assistant. "The safety systems detected a problem and shut everything down, but we cannot find any actual problem. The safety systems seem to be malfunctioning." Kovacs looked at the control panels designed by human engineers. They had built safeguards on top of safeguards to prevent accidents. But now, those same safeguards were preventing the reactor from working at all. How long to restart the reactor? We do not know. Without understanding how the safety systems work, we cannot override them safely. Outside, 10 million people sat in darkness, their food spoiling, their hospitals running on emergency power, their children crying in the cold. Similar power failures were happening on dozens of worlds. The great space elevators that moved cargo between planets and space stations began failing. The massive structures that had taken decades to build were shutting down one by one on Earth's former colony of New Brisbane. Captain Amanda Cole stood on the observation deck of the human settlement. She watched the news reports coming from Council space with a mixture of sadness and anger. "The galactic economy has lost 12 trillion credits this month," the news reporter said. "Food shortages are reported on 47 worlds. The death toll from the medical crisis has reached 5 million beings. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. Amanda turned off the news. She had once served as a liaison with the Galactic Defense Force. She had tried to build bridges between humans and aliens. Now she watched those same aliens struggling with problems that humans could have solved easily. Captain called her aide, Lieutenant Steve Parker. "We are receiving emergency communications from Council space. They are asking for humanitarian aid." Amanda looked at the messages. Desperate pleas for help were coming from dozens of worlds. The same aliens who had kicked humans out of their space were now begging for assistance. "What are your orders?" Lieutenant Parker asked. Amanda thought about all the humans who had died trying to help these aliens. She thought about the colonies that had been abandoned, the families that had been forced to leave their homes, the dreams that had been destroyed by alien prejudice. "Send a reply," she said finally. "Tell them we are sorry for their suffering, but we are no longer part of their galaxy. They made that choice, not us." Meanwhile, on the human colony of New Terra, the population was thriving. Without council restrictions, human technology had advanced faster than ever before. New medicines, better computers, cleaner energy, and improved space travel were being developed every month. Director Susan Clark walked through the research district, where thousands of human scientists worked on projects that would have been banned in council space. The humans had learned from their time with the aliens, but they were now free to use that knowledge without interference. "How are the new colonies developing?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Tony Mitchell. "Excellent progress. We now have over 60 settled worlds, and 20 more colonies are planned for next year. Our population has grown by 30% since we left council space." Susan smiled. The aliens had thought humans needed them to survive. Instead, humans were doing better than ever. 2 years had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy was dying. Chancellor Veltar sat in his empty council chamber, staring at reports that got worse every day. Half the member worlds had stopped sending representatives. 3 species had declared independence from the council. 2 others were fighting a war over water rights. The Galactic Council that had ruled for 1,000 years was falling apart. Veltar looked at his most trusted advisor, General Ixt. The old Zeph warrior had fought in dozens of campaigns, but he had never seen destruction like this. How many worlds have we lost contact with completely? Velta asked. 17, General Ixt replied. Their communication systems failed, and we have no way to reach them. For all we know, everyone on those worlds could be dead. Veltar closed his eyes. 17 worlds, billions of lives, gone because the Council had been too proud to work with humans as equals. We have to do something, Veltar said quietly. We have to find the humans and ask for their help. General Ixt looked shocked. Sir, that would be against everything the Council stands for. We made it illegal to contact humans. If other species find out, they might revolt. Look around, Velta said, gesturing at the empty chamber. There is no council left to revolt against. We are already finished. Veltar made a decision that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago. He authorized a secret mission to find the humans and beg for their help. The mission would break every law the council had made about human contact. But laws meant nothing. When civilization was collapsing, the mission team was small and carefully chosen. General Ixt would lead it personally. With him went Dr. Merkala, the council's best remaining scientist, and Ambassador Kai, who had always argued for better treatment of humans. They took the fastest ship in the fleet and headed toward the edge of known space, where intelligence reports suggested the humans might have gone. The journey would take 3 weeks, traveling through dangerous areas where pirates and rogue AI systems roamed freely. On the second week of their journey, they encountered a human patrol ship at the border of what appeared to be human territory. The human vessel was sleek and advanced, clearly built with technology that had improved far beyond anything in Council space. Captain Jennifer Hayes commanded the patrol ship. She had been one of the last humans to leave Council space, and she remembered the bitter arguments and harsh treatment. When her sensors detected the Council ship, her first instinct was to turn them away. This is Captain Hayes of the Human Federation vessel New Dawn. She broadcast, "You are entering Human Federation space without permission. State your business or leave immediately." General Ixt took the communication. "Captain Hayes, this is General Ixt of the former Galactic Council. We request permission to speak with your leaders. It is a matter of utmost urgency." "The Council has no authority here," Captain Hayes replied coldly. "You made it very clear 2 years ago that humans were not welcome in your galaxy. The feeling is now mutual." "Please," Dr. Merkala interrupted, taking the microphone. "Our worlds are dying. Billions of people need help. We know we made terrible mistakes, but innocent people are suffering." Captain Hayes was silent for a long moment. She had seen the reports of the disasters in Council space. Despite everything the Council had done to humans, she could not ignore the suffering of ordinary people. "Follow me," she said finally. "But any hostile action, and you will be destroyed." The Council ship followed Captain Hayes to a massive space station that served as the border checkpoint for human space. The station was 3 times larger than anything the Council had ever built, and it was clearly constructed with advanced technology. Admiral Susan Clark met them at the docking bay. She was older now, her hair gray, and her face lined with the stress of building a new civilization. But her eyes were still sharp and determined. "General Ixt," she said formally, "I remember you. You were one of the few Council members who treated humans with some respect. What brings you to our territory?" The Council delegation was escorted to a meeting room. Through the windows, they could see the bustling activity of the human station. Ships came and went constantly, carrying goods and people between the growing human colonies. Everything looked prosperous and well organized. "Admiral Clark," General Ixt began, "I will not waste time with pleasantries. The galaxy is collapsing. The systems that humans built and maintained are failing everywhere. Billions of people are dying. We come to ask for your help." Admiral Clark leaned back in her chair. "Help with what exactly?" Dr. Merkala opened a data tablet and showed the Admiral the reports. "The medical systems are failing. Plagues are spreading unchecked across dozens of worlds. The agricultural systems have collapsed, causing massive famines. The defense networks cannot stop pirate attacks. The communication systems are broken, preventing coordination of aid efforts." Admiral Clark looked at the data with professional interest but no emotion. "These are the same systems that humans built and offered to maintain." The same systems the council said were too dangerous in human hands. We were wrong, General Ixt said simply. We were foolish and prideful. We thought we could control everything without understanding how it worked. We have learned the price of our arrogance. Ambassador Kexai spoke up. Admiral, I know the council treated humans badly. I voted against many of the restrictions placed on your people. But right now, children are starving on 40 different worlds. Entire populations are dying from diseases that humans knew how to cure. Please, help us save them. Admiral Clark was quiet for several minutes. She looked out the window at the human ships and stations. Humanity had built something amazing in just 2 years of freedom. They had colonies, trade routes, and technology that surpassed anything the council had ever achieved. What exactly are you asking for? She said finally. Send human engineers to fix the critical systems, General Ixt said. Send doctors to help with the medical crisis. Send agricultural experts to restart food production. We will pay any price you ask. Any price. Admiral Clark asked. Anything, General Ixt confirmed. Admiral Clark stood up and walked to the window. The price is this: complete autonomy for all human settlements, past and future. Formal recognition of human independence. I guarantee that humans will never again be subject to council authority. Done, General Ixt said immediately. Equal representation for humans in any future galactic government. Not junior membership, not observer status. Full equality. Agreed. And a formal apology from every council member world for the treatment humans received. General Ixt hesitated. Getting the proud council members to apologize would be nearly impossible. But with billions of lives at stake, there was no choice. We will make it happen, he said. Admiral Clark turned back to face them. Even if we agreed to all of this, the Human Federation Assembly would have to vote on it. And I can tell you right now that most humans have no interest in helping the council. What would change their minds? Dr. Merkala asked desperately. Proof that this time would be different. Proof that humans would be treated as equals, not servants, to be called upon in emergencies and dismissed when convenient. Admiral Clark activated a holographic display showing the human colonies. We have built 63 worlds in 2 years. Our population has grown by 50%. Our technology has advanced faster than ever before. Our people are happy and free. Why should we risk all of that to help people who despised us? General Ixt looked at the thriving human settlements with a mixture of admiration and regret. The humans had not just survived their exile, they had flourished beyond imagination. Because despite everything we did to you, you are still better than us, he said quietly. You have something we lack. The ability to put aside hatred and help those in need. Admiral Clark studied the faces of the 3 council representatives. She could see genuine regret in their eyes, but also desperation. They were drowning and reaching for any lifeline. I will present your request to the assembly, she said, but I make no promises. The vote will be held in 1 week. Until then, you are welcome to stay here and see what humans have built without council interference. Over the following week, the council delegation toured human space. They visited colonies where former council refugees had built new lives. They saw factories producing goods more efficiently than anything in council space. They met children who had been born free and would never know the restrictions the council had placed on their parents. Most impressive were the research facilities. Human scientists were developing technologies that seemed impossible. Medical treatments that could cure any disease. Energy systems that could power entire planets without pollution. Terraforming techniques that could make dead worlds bloom with life. Dr. Merkala spent hours talking with human scientists. How did you advance so quickly? She asked. Freedom, replied Dr. Nancy Wilson, the head of the Medical Research Division. For years, the council told us what we could and could not study. They said our research was too dangerous, our ideas too radical. Without those restrictions, we could finally pursue knowledge wherever it led. General Ixt met with human military leaders and learned how they had reorganized their defense systems. 5 years had passed since the humans left council space. The galaxy that once boasted of being the greatest civilization in history was now a collection of broken worlds and failed dreams. On the dead world of Titan 5, former Chancellor Velt, walked through the abandoned streets of what used to be the largest city in council space. The buildings were dark and empty. Weeds grew through cracks in the sidewalks. The great monuments to galactic unity were covered in rust and decay. Was old now, his blue skin pale and wrinkled. He had lost weight and walked with a cane. The proud leader who had once commanded the respect of 12 species was now just another refugee looking for a place to live. He stopped in front of a broken statue that had once honored the founding of the Galactic Council. Someone had spray-painted words on the base in several different languages. All of them said the same thing: "This is what pride costs." Veltar's assistant, a young Zephyrian named Kextel, caught up with him. "Sir, the transport ship is ready to leave. We should go before the power grid fails again." Veltar looked one last time at the dead city. "Do you know what this place used to be, Kextel?" "No, sir. This was the council's capital. 20 million people lived here. It was the center of galactic government, trade, and culture. Now look at it." Kextel looked at the empty buildings and broken streets. What happened to everyone? They left. They scattered to whatever worlds would take them. Some died. Some joined pirate gangs. Some just gave up and waited for the end. They walked to the spaceport, where a small transport ship waited. It was one of the last ships still working on Titan V. Most of the others had been stripped for parts, or had broken down completely, as their ship lifted off from the dying world. Veltar looked down at the planet that had once been the heart of galactic civilization. The lights that had once shone like stars were gone. The cities that had housed billions were empty. The great space elevator that had connected the planet to orbit had collapsed years ago. Its wreckage scattered across the landscape. "Where are we going, sir?" Kextel asked. "To the outer territories. There are still a few worlds where the old ways survive. Maybe we can find some work there." Their destination was a small farming world called Haven 3. It was one of the few planets where the agricultural systems still functioned, thanks to a group of alien engineers who had managed to learn some of Dr. Alex Turner's techniques. It was not much, but it was better than starving. Meanwhile, in human space, the Federation continued to grow and prosper. Captain Tony Mitchell commanded the exploration vessel Pathfinder as it surveyed a new star system for possible colonization. This would be humanity's 97th world, and scouts had found 3 planets that could support human life. "Captain," called Science Officer Beth Collins from her station, "I'm detecting artificial structures in the outer system. It looks like an abandoned alien research station." Captain Mitchell studied the readings. "Any signs of life?" "Negative. The station appears to have been empty for several years. Take us in for a closer look." The research station turned out to be a Krith facility that had been abandoned during the Great Collapse. The aliens had left in such a hurry that they had not even bothered to take their personal belongings. Computer logs showed that the station had been studying new farming techniques, trying to replace the human systems they had lost. They never figured it out, Beth observed as she read through the research notes. They were trying to copy Dr. Turner's work, but they didn't understand the basic principles. Captain Mitchell felt a mixture of sadness and anger. These aliens had chosen pride over survival, and they had paid the ultimate price for it. Back on Earth, Admiral Susan Clark stood in the Federation Assembly Hall, addressing the representatives of humanity's expanding civilization. She was giving her annual report on the state of human space. 5 years ago, we were a struggling species begging for acceptance in someone else's galaxy, she said. Today, we are the masters of our own destiny. We have 96 colonies, a population of 8 billion, and technology that surpasses anything the old council ever achieved. The assembly erupted in applause. Representatives from dozens of worlds cheered for the progress their species had made. But we must not forget the lessons of our exile. Admiral Clark continued. We must never become so proud that we forget to treat others with respect. We must never believe that might makes right. The applause died down as the assembly members considered her words. Which brings me to our current situation, Admiral Clark said. Over the past 5 years, we have provided humanitarian aid to 47 former council worlds. We have sent food to prevent famines, medicine to stop plagues, and engineers to repair critical systems. We have saved an estimated 50 million lives. She paused to let that number sink in. However, we have also received disturbing reports about the complete collapse of galactic civilization. Entire species have gone extinct. Whole star systems have been abandoned. The great alliance that once ruled the galaxy has dissolved into chaos and war. The hall was silent now. Everyone knew that this moment would eventually come. Today I received a communication from the last functioning government in former council space. They are requesting full membership in the Human Federation. They want us to take over administration of their remaining worlds and help rebuild galactic civilization. The silence stretched on. The weight of the decision hung over everyone in the room. The question before us is simple, Admiral Clark said. Do we expand our protection to include the aliens who once rejected us? Do we take responsibility for rebuilding the galaxy they destroyed through their own pride and prejudice? Representative Mark Davis from New Terra stood up. Admiral, what assurance do we have that they won't turn against us again once their crisis is over? None, Admiral Clark replied honestly. History shows us that gratitude is often forgotten when the danger passes. Representative Lisa Kim from New Harmony asked, what would membership in the Federation mean for these alien worlds? It would mean accepting human leadership and human values. It would mean equal rights for all beings regardless of species. But it would also mean following Federation law. Some alien cultures might find that difficult to accept. The debate continued. For hours, some representatives argued that humanity had no obligation to help those who had wronged them. Others insisted that helping was the right thing to do, regardless of past injustices. Former Ambassador Jake Morrison, now elderly but still sharp, gave the closing argument. 5 years ago, they told us we were too young, too violent, too unpredictable, to be trusted with responsibility, he said. They said we needed their guidance to become civilized. Today, we have the chance to prove them both wrong and right. He paused, looking around the room at the faces of humanity's representatives. They were wrong about our character. We are not the violent children they thought we were. But they were right about one thing. We do have a responsibility to guide others toward civilization. Not because we are superior, but because we are strong enough to help and wise enough to do it right. The vote was not close this time. By an overwhelming majority, the Human Federation agreed to accept applications for membership from former Council worlds. But the terms were clear. Any world that joined would accept human leadership and human values. There would be no return to the old system of species-based hierarchy. The news spread quickly through the galaxy. On the farming world of Haven 3, Veltar received the announcement while working in the fields alongside other refugees. The great chancellor who had once commanded Starfleets was now picking vegetables to earn his daily food. They're offering us a chance to join them, Kextel said. Reading the message on a battered communication device, Veltar straightened up slowly, his old back aching from the farm work. What are the terms? Complete integration into their society. No special status for different species. Everyone follows the same laws and has the same rights. Veltar smiled bitterly. So we would become exactly what we once feared, a junior species in someone else's empire. But sir, it's our only chance for survival. I know, Veltar said quietly, and that is the greatest irony of all. We spent so much time fearing human domination that we destroyed ourselves trying to prevent it. Now, our only hope is to accept voluntarily what we once fought so hard to avoid. He looked up at the sky, where human ships could occasionally be seen passing overhead. They were exploration vessels, colony ships, and trade freighters serving humanity's growing civilization. The same species the Council had considered too dangerous to trust now controlled more space than the Council had ever dreamed of reaching. Will you apply for Federation membership? Kextel asked. Veltar considered the question. Joining the Federation would mean giving up everything his people had believed about their superiority over humans. It would mean admitting that they had been wrong about everything. But it would also mean survival. Yes, he said finally, we will apply. And we will hope that humans are more forgiving than we ever were. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening on hundreds of worlds. Species that had once looked down on humans were now begging to join human civilization. The proud aliens who had expelled humanity from their space were now seeking shelter under human protection.